Hello out there, my name is Laolu Akonde and you are on to Inside Sources. But first, here is my take for the day entitled Iromi Killings and Sunday Jackson Case, the Urgency of Reforms. Just as the nation was preparing to mark the Eid al-Fitr holidays, we were all struck by the despicable killings of travelers of northern extraction going home from Rivers State to Kano State. The journey was to join their families to celebrate Ramadan. Then strategy struck at Iromi in Edo State, where about 16 of her dear citizens, at least, lost their lives, some in very gory circumstances. We join in commiserations with all families and relatives of the victims of this wanton tragedy. The president, while expressing shock at this dastardly act, swiftly directed the police and other security agencies to conduct a thorough investigation and punish the suspected culprits. If we must be honest with ourselves, there is a gripping sense of helplessness among many Nigerians regarding the perceived inability of the current security architecture to protect them. And this has to change. There is also a worrying lack of a sense of justice in many of our local communities. And we know that the absence of justice and the presence of mutual suspicions are bad, especially in a multi-ethnic country like Nigeria. Right from investigation to prosecution and all the way to the delivery of justice, we need urgent reforms that will offer confidence on a consistent basis so that we can begin to reorient ourselves away from the sense of ethnic oppression and religious extremism. There has been in our country for some time now a sense of regional suppression and inordinate preference in matters of community justice, with assaults and killings that occur without proper redress. It is up to our leaders then to urgently address this menace, showcase unity, tolerance, and assure that there will be justice in our country. This is where we want to make a point regarding the case of Sunday Jackson, that young man in Kodomti in the Newman local government in Adamawa State. Jackson was in his farm when a herder came in and attacked him. Stabbing him twice, he managed to retrieve the knife from the attacker and eventually killed the attacker in the process. The matter went to court and all the way to the Supreme Court. Shockingly, a death sentence against Jackson has prevailed. The legal intricacies seem to have aided this obvious travesty, where a man who acted in self-defense is now on death row against every sense of natural justice. But thank goodness there was the Supreme Court Justice Ellen Morenikeji Ogunwumiju, who found the courage to dissent among the other 4 justices of the Supreme Court on that panel. Ogunwumiju, who headed the panel, said, and I quote, "I cannot agree that a reasonable man who had been stabbed twice already and who was still being attacked with a herdsman's stick would hesitate to fight for his life. I have serious doubts that a person attacked on his own farm who tried to disengage from the fight but was pursued and stabbed had no right to self-defense in the circumstances." Unquote. Justice Ogunwumiju's minority ruling aligns with common sense and natural expectations. God bless her. Thank goodness there is still the possibility of the prerogative of mercy that the Adamawa State Governor, Governor Amadu Fintiri, could use to save the situation. And for good measure, Justice Ogunwumiju, who dissented, has also supported the cause for the exercise of clemency. According to her, and I quote, "I recommend this appellant as a proper candidate for the governor of Adamawa State to exercise his prerogative of mercy." Governor Fintiri, please do the needful and save the day. By and large, we need to reform our justice sector so that accused persons, such as Jackson, will have access to competent lawyers, as it seems the level of experience of his lawyers at the trial court weighed heavily on the presentation of the fact and the law. One more thing. Inside Sources has oftentimes noted the inability of the Nigerian opposition to present a serious, coordinated, and lawful pushback to the excesses of the ruling party in recent times. But this week, one courageous woman, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, has demonstrated that when politicians feel compelled, they certainly know how to fight back. I really wish we have circumstances and situations that will lawfully compel our political leaders to wake up and fight for the common good and for the people's interest. We don't know yet how the fight between the senator and the Senate would end, but we hope that those in opposition in Nigeria are taking note, namely that repression can be resisted and repression can be resisted legitimately. And there you have it. Inside Sources will be right back. Welcome back to Inside Sources. Today we are opening the show with a discussion on some of the recent developments in the oil and gas sector. For instance, we have a new leadership at NNPC and the controversy over the Naira for crude deal between NNPC and some of the local refiners. To join me in that very critical discussion today, I have a leading oil and gas expert and a public intellectual of note, Mr. Ademola Adigun. Mr. Adigun, welcome back to Inside Sources.
Thank you, sir. Always a pleasure.
All right. So let's just start from the very latest development. Earlier this week, the president announced the recomposition of the NNPC board with a new group CEO, Mr. Bashir Bayo-Ojulari. What's your take on this? Let's kick it off that way.
Well, I think it's about time. I think he's making a very good decision. I think before the change of leadership, NNPC announced they're going to go public and sell some of the shares to Nigerians and other parties interested. That for me was a concern because I felt the way it's currently structured and the profile, they wouldn't have attracted the best. I mean, I know the former GCO, Mr. Mikiari, did a very good job in moving NNPC forward. But I felt for them to go to the market, a new set of leadership was needed. You had people that had some experience in doing this before. So I think what the parents has done by bringing Mr. Ojulari is to bring people that, when you look at the board now, you have more confidence in an investor. Now, the old board was good, but wasn't enough for the market, in my perception. And I felt that a lot of things had to be tidied up within the NNPC operating framework. So Mr. Ojulari has led consortiums to make acquisitions. He's an initial person. You have people like Bello Rabiu, former GED, strategy and planning, NNPC. You have David Ige, who was one of the leading people on gas. In fact, is credited with the gas master plan. You have Henry Obi, a very mobile professional, came back to NNPC as GD downstream. You have Mr. Austin Awuru, who led or supported the separate acquisition of Mobile. So you have tested and trusted people who have been in that board.
Chairman.
Yeah, the new chairman is an experienced player as well, from health, technical and everything. So it brings some stability. Yeah. Whenever you're going public, when people want to buy or invest in you, beyond your numbers, people look at the people behind the numbers.
Right.
So your numbers are one thing, but the people behind the numbers are the second thing. So people invest both in what the numbers are and the people going to manage the numbers. So I think if you went, for instance, on a roadshow, right. And you have this kind of caliber of people on the board now, and they went to New York, they went to London to raise money, it's more likely that people have more confidence in them than the SOR leadership. Because of their pedigree.
Okay.
When you check their leadership and their records, most of them are people of honesty, integrity, people that you can respect, people who have done well on senator and who have not been political. So that gives a more confidence in it. Then again, in life, things are not static. If somebody's been there for some time, you need to bring new blood, new changes. Yeah. I think NNPC has got to, Mr. Kerry did a very good job, but we were getting to a stagnancy. We weren't growing the assets as much as we grow them, weren't producing as much good as we produce them. And it might not be entirely his fault, or something beyond his capabilities, and there are things he's done that are very good. It also might be political interference, which is a problem with state-owned companies. So I think this is a good move.
Okay, so let's dig a little deeper into that move. For instance, let's talk a little bit about Mr. Ojulari. I also know him personally.
Okay.
Was in Shell, and we saw quite a bit of interaction even when we were in government. Yeah. And, you could tell that somebody of his caliber certainly has a lot to offer because of the experience that he has had outside of public service. Many of the previous leaders that we've had in NNPC came in from NNPCL.
Correct.
And you are right, and I agree that Mr. Kyari did, quite a good job. But I think that when you bring people like Ojulari from the private sector, that it might help us not only to reform NNPC, but like you've also said, to raise money, because the level of investment in this sector is still very low.
Yes.
So my question is that, do you think that Ojulari and then Mr. Kida, who I think it was in total,
Yeah,
probably
Elf and others.
yeah, who is now the chairman. The whole board looks like a much younger, more engaging, technocratic people. Do you think that can bring a dramatic, and that's the question, can it bring a dramatic change around two issues? Number one, the issue of raising money, new investment in that sector that is very seriously needed. And then, can it also help in the area of transparency? Because these guys are coming from a private sector where they are more compelled to be transparent.
Let me say what I actually think. As usual, I have cautious optimism.
Okay.
I'm not totally convinced that anybody, because they're in private sector, is much smarter than people in public sector. It's a different game. I knew when Mr. Kachiko was appointed GM, NNPC and minister, and he did a lot of very good job. Brought in a lot of people like Enrobi, and
he came from the private sector,
and brought other people in and brought new blood into NNPC, and brought somebody into refineries. But there's a context of an NNPC as it is, a culture in NNPC, and dinosaurs, in quotes, that are there. To get NNPC to become more functional and operative.
Dinosaurs inside NNPC.
Naturally. There are people who have been grown up from NNPC. Whenever you take off a corporation like NNPC, who has survived many governments. I mean, there are two things that endure in Nigeria. NNPC and political parties. They're the most enduring legacies in Nigeria. Everything doesn't survive. And now, with such a corporation for that long, people that have a culture, way of doing things, the first thing that happens when you take over is resistance. They don't want change. I think Mr. Kachiko experienced that a lot. And he tried bringing some new people, filling some new places. But there's a cultural problem that takes a long time to solve. Secondly, the issue of transparency. NNPC is owned by MOPI and MOFI, Ministry of Petroleum Incorporated and Ministry of Finance Incorporated. Yeah. So it's still a government drive.
Yes.
It's still not untied from government. There's a level of disclosure NNPC cannot do, even if it wants to do, based on so many considerations. And everybody promises us transparency when they come. I mean, again, let's be fair. Mr. Kyari moved the ball forward. I mean, they started publishing accounts and everything. They haven't done everything the PI suggested, which included many other disclosures. So it might improve gently. It might lead to some more level, but it will take some time to happen and take a more deeper engagement than what's surface. So a board will not run an NNPC. A board will advise the leadership of an NNPC.
Right.
Now, Mr. Ojulari will do what he can do as GMD, but he's going to rely on the structure. He can't change structure overnight because, again, the NNPC, for whatever it is, has a lot of experience. And there are people who have historical knowledge in that corporation. He will take time for him to start changing and making faces. So if I were him, I would delay the public offer, first of all, to make sure we get good deals.
Well, there's no set schedule for that.
Well, there was an announcement that it will take place later in this year or last quarter. That's what we were told by the outgoing NNPC leadership. That might need to be delayed. Secondly, NNPC has a lot of dead assets. A lot of dead assets. There is so much sentimentality by all governments. For instance, there's nothing NNPC is doing running refineries. They can't. They have not been unable to. The millions of expenditures poured into the refineries will not use anything on the long run. But Nigerians are sentimental. The labor will always come and insist, refineries must work before you can take out subsidy. That's what they are shout for many, many years. Right. They were holding every government, no, take refineries work. How does that affect pricing if refineries are working? What we want in Nigeria is not refinery working. What we want to have equitable markets where we help produce, where people that bring petrol, imported and local, give us the best prices. We want competition. But NNPC has those dead weights that is carrying on its book. They have staff, over 2,000 plus, working in refineries who are not really optimizing efficiency. NNPC
2,000 staff for refineries only?
About 2,300 plus.
Just refineries?
Across refineries, who by themselves, the refinery product cut is working, but not working up optimal efficiency. There are things to be done there. Warri Refinery started and stopped. A Port Harcourt one, we don't know what's happening to that. Cardinal, we don't know what's happening to it. So I would, for instance, get rid of all those dead assets first.
As in, privatize them.
Sell them, privatize them, get them off your books. To move, you can't be heavy. The heavier you are, the harder it is for you to move. Remember the old First Bank advert that they had the elephant.
Yeah.
It took them how many years to move the elephant with 1 foot forward. It was when they got to the point where they realized that bank was dying and becoming a dead elephant that they raised 1 foot in their login and branding. NNPC has those kind of heavyweights all there, which again, there's a political buy-in as well, which because of course is politics, and the government will have to have some interest in the oil and gas energy sector. So that's one part of it. Secondly, he won't lead the PI implementation. As an MD of or GCO of NNPC,
right.
He can't implement the PI best enough. I mean, they try ought to do that. But then you have regulators who, again, might be impeded by government itself in properly implementing the PI for many other reasons, as we saw. I mean, so look at the time the investments took. The investments took about 3-4 years. Things they should have done in 6-4 months. And the point was, none was declined. At the end of the day, everything went through. But we wasted time in making it happen. We wasted time in making it happen. I still say...
That's divestment from...
Of all the other ones, all the Mobile, Shell, and Ajib divestments. It was unnecessary.
That could have been faster.
Yeah, it could have been quicker done. There was nothing new discovered. But a lot of policy hanging over it, interest management, let me manage and other things.
Right.
The refinery was sold by the Obasanjo government. That was the best decision that could have happened at that time.
For oil and gas.
For the sector. Imagine all the money Alhaji Dangote poured into his refinery, poured into those 4 refineries. Imagine the yield and growth and
the stability we would have had in the market.
Exactly. But now the refineries are more unattractive because Dangote's refinery makes them less attractive for investors. I, for instance, will not invest in a refinery when Dangote is doing 33 million barrels per day. When he has more sophisticated machinery, when he has one of the best desulfurization plants, when he has all those things going for him, when he has all those nice things. So it makes the sale of this refineries less attractive. Then the government has taken a lot of loans to get the refineries where they are. They borrowed money using their crude to to get the refineries on state. So the assets as it is will weigh NNPC's portfolio down. Yeah. And then public disclosure, it's a function of the shareholders, MOPI and MOFI, what they determine. The board can't say this is what we want to do.
Right.
But at the end of the day,
it's the government
who appoints the board.
Yeah. But I think that the kind of people the president has put in the new board, the new GCO, even I think there's the new chief of CFO. The
same person, but was reappointed.
Okay.
Yes.
I think, I think that is an indication that is probably going to, we're going to probably have a sell-off of those dead assets, especially the refineries. Do you share that expectation?
No, I don't. I expect that these people will do better. I know they are more knowledgeable. I know they're private sector led. But even amongst them, it's the politics of energy is not numbers alone. There's beyond numbers. There's emotional investments in some things. There's long-term energy security of the country, right, which the government might consider. There are those political tie-ins as well, which again can impede good decision making. So right, it's going to be a hard decision and things. But I expect that these people will move it better, will move it forward, get numbers going forward. But again, it all depends on the president. Yeah. If President Tinubu decides that he wants to hands off it, in quotes, right, and allow these people to run professionally, they'll produce results.
I will expect, if the president's pedigree is anything to go by, I will expect that this is the direction that we take. But hey, you never know. Okay, but there's also the issue of illicit financial flows. Actually, the former chairman of ICPC was here last week, I believe, and we talked about that. And of course, this is not limited only to the oil and gas, but I think a lot of it happens in oil and gas, where the multinationals take out more than it is due for them. Even in terms of pricing, in terms of payment of consultants. So that they load their operations, their operational costs with money that ought to actually be, normally, if properly done, should go to the profits so that the government can take a tax. What's your own view on that?
Well, that is not a lie. That is true. But I know that NIMS, the investment arm of NNPC, had done a lot of work on that. I know the PIA, under the fiscal terms, made that a little more difficult. Gave some limits on what you can charge as overhead of office costs and other things that were mechanisms for taking money out of Nigeria. So the law is there. And I think to some extent is working to some extent. Yeah, more can be done. I also know that, again, the people they put on place now, they were all players in that space.
Yeah.
Mr. Ojulari was in Shell. And at the very end of Shell, he knows how Shell plays their game.
So they'll be very able to curb it.
They know where the dead bodies are buried. So
Exactly.
but they won't have the power to do it because they are not regulators.
Yeah.
But in the joint ventures which they operate,
They'll be able to
under NIMS,
Yes.
they can put more eye on it.
Yeah.
It's a game the IOCs have been playing for a long time in Nigeria.
Yeah.
And again, there were reasons for that. Again, it takes two to be corrupt. No individual can be corrupt on itself. Some things I wonder at personally. Wando takes over Ajip. Without financial investments, they start producing more crude. And I ask everybody, what changed in the system?
Yeah.
Why was Ajip not able to raise production using the same parameters, same structure that Wando has taken over now and has increased the yield of crude for Wando as its corporation now? So there's obviously collaboration within these people.
Yeah.
I know Nigerians ourselves, we are not in most cases, very honest people. Everybody is there for a deal. We have, we're a deal-making country. So, we are on the same level on top on doing deals, but not deals that benefit the country. Deals that benefit us individually. So that must be tackled well. Right. So there's a lot of work to do on that. So I think, but with the kind of caliber of people there, and potentially what Mr. Ojulari would do in this small, what do you call them, parastatals of NNPC.
Right.
Potentially, that could be stronger. But the key to making that happen is NIMS, NEPRC, which is doing a great job.
Regulator.
Those two are the key.
Okay. All right. What about the question of who monitors and how we get information about the daily crude production? It still seems to be the case that the IOCs are still the ones that have that information.
No, I actually don't believe that. I doubt that. Every time I've heard that, I doubt it's true. If you've ever been to a wellhead or a terminal, there are a minimum of 13 agencies there.
Yeah, I know that.
Of course, you know this.
But there's a lot of lot of collusion.
That is the word. So it's not the IOCs. An IOC, look what a mobile.
Well, they are the ones that have the control of the equipment. That
not in all cases.
Okay.
I mean, so Shell has. I don't know why I should be saying this, so that we can find work to do. Shell, for instance.
Shell, for instance, for public interest.
Well, let us know about it if you start paying me now. Shell, for instance, is notorious in quotes for its inability to give proper accounts of crude that is shared by other partners through its flow terminals. It's notorious in their back-end accounting for always having shortages. And that's why a lot of people have opted for barging rather than using the pipelines now.
Right.
Barging has become a more prominent business because everybody wants to own their own crude supply.
Yeah.
But you said something very important earlier on. The collusion is also there. If I go there and I see, and sometimes not to see, then I will not see.
Yeah.
But not that I can't see.
Exactly. Just like the former president Jonathan said that if people are pretending to sleep,
we can't wake them up. That's my point about that.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to this issue of Naira for crude. Is it crude for Naira day, whatever we call it? So it seems the thing is falling apart. What's going on?
I think they were negotiating it the last time I heard about it, and they didn't come to an agreement for many reasons. I think both parties have been less than upfront with what they've been done.
And when you mean both parties, you're talking of the government and the
Dangote refinery.
Essentially Dangote.
Yeah, no, it's more of Dangote. This is not another person. What the law says is that there must be domestic crude supply obligations, which the government should meet. Now, the government can only meet its obligations if it has enough crude to give to everybody.
Right.
Now, a lot of the crude of Nigeria has been impaired by the loans they've taken. The forces agreements have probably taken over about 300 to 400,000 barrels of crude. Because if you've taken a loan from somebody and you pledge 120,000 barrels, 8,000 barrels per day,
Right.
you have to pay them first.
Yeah.
And because you're not producing at the levels you produce, and you're still doing, of 1.5 million barrels Nigeria produces, only about 850,000 barrels belong to Nigeria.
Right.
The rest belong to the IOCs and other investors in the business. Now, if your 8,000 barrels now has a shortage, because you've taken a lot of it on loan, then you cannot meet your obligations. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is the transparency mechanism wasn't there, really. So there was issues of reconciliation.
Right.
Both parties didn't agree. NNPCL claimed they've given Dangote 48 million liters of crude. Dangote claims you have got that much of crude. Dangote claims the Naira deal. My thoughts is that deal shouldn't have occurred in the first place. I thought that you can't take a subsidy and bring back subsidy. Subsidy was removed for a purpose.
Yeah.
Everybody shouts, "Oh, subsidy wasn't the problem. Corruption was the problem." Every government from Obasanjo, first regime, not second, first regime, has tried to tackle subsidy. They've tried. They've done everything possible. Every government lacked the courage to take down subsidy totally. The current government tried initially. Huge an outcry, made them bring it back softly because, again, they made some economic mistakes. You take out subsidy, then you devalue your currency, then subsidy comes back immediately, and then there's hardship in the land. So people talk about the price of petrol. Now, I don't think the price of petrol is a problem. It's the affordability of that price that's a problem. If minimum wage had kept up with pricing, nobody will make noise. It's not that it's the most expensive in the world. And again, people don't like hearing this. Other African countries pay much more for petrol, and they earn much less than we earn in real value. But again, there are other factors that are there. Maybe they're beyond this argument.
Yeah.
But the point was, you now come back, and Dangote says, look, I need crude for my business. I think it was here I said it, that the first thing anybody that is into manufacturing or production does is have a source of supply. You can't open any production plant anywhere in the world without identifying more resources. Now, under the law and as a schedule, even though you're an export processing zone, I've been told that they're under the mandate of domestic supply obligations in Nigeria, which for me I found very interesting because the rules governing an EPZ are not the rules governing an RRDL, which are in different locations, and the waivers you get and other things you get from being there. But again, it's a very good investment. So what I felt is, up front, the government had no business in that business. Your crude should be sold through your channels. Your crude should be given to what you can afford. Why are you asking somebody to pay Naira for something that is a value market in dollars? I thought it was...
Well, is it not to make sure that the price is affordable to Nigerians?
That's subsidy. What do you call subsidy? Subsidy is anything that you sell less than the price is produced.
But at least government doesn't have to, government is still saving money. If we are saying that, look, we sell this thing to you in Naira because we also have constraints about foreign exchange. And since the market that you are also going to be selling to are going to pay in Naira, it seems to make sense.
But I like the word seems to make sense. But let me ask you, when everybody is taking the Naira and they have to pay the value chain, will they pay them in Naira?
Yeah, well, of course. So because of the value, the cost of the equipment and everything, maintenance, everything.
The business is dollar denominated.
Yeah.
For every
but the people, sorry, Mr. Deko, yes, Mr. Dadimola, the people, they seem to get a better deal. And I want you to correct me if I'm wrong. If this Naira for crude is maintained, people seem to get a better deal. When it was done, the prices came down.
No, I agree with you.
So that's my whole...
No. So I totally agree with you. And that's why I said it's a subsidy. I don't disagree. Subsidies benefit people. And there's nothing wrong with subsidy. I've said that several times. When people have challenged me, I said subsidy is a good thing. If you can afford it, if it's transparent, if on long run it's beneficial. There's nothing wrong with subsidy. Everybody subsidizes something. People have subsidy power or energy or schooling or health or education. So there's no country without subsidies. Now, what I said is this. If your policy is to remove subsidy to free the oil and gas sector, why do you bring back subsidy through the back door? Now, like you said, people get a better deal and prices went down. And I think a lot of agitation for it to continue and resume. But the question I ask is, does the government have enough? One. Secondly, can the government find other ways of doing that? The government controls who does business in the crude business. why don't you give special licensing, which is already in the law anyway, that crude producers can probably get licenses to do more crude.
You mean the
mining process, the oil mining license, crude mining process.
Oh, okay, so that they can get more
so you can,
out of
you can do
NNPC's own
the government's country.
Yeah.
So you can have backward integration. We have many fallow fields in Nigeria. The potential for crude in Nigeria today is close to 4 million barrels per day. We're at best, with condensate,
doing less than 2.
No, we're doing 1.5, 1.56 with condensate. We're doing 1.3 in reactor barrels.
Condensate,
yeah. So when you ask the potentials, if all the refiners, for instance, were allowed to do backward integration, have their crude supply chain, invest in the crude business, then the crude, I mean, I know modern refiners are doing that. Walter Smith, Aradel, and Co, even though they need more crude, they don't have enough, are doing that. They have their fields. It's from their fields, the marginal fields that they use, they utilize, which is a good deal. Right. I also know the law says the government should provide crude at first choice to them. Right. But why do the denomination of it? It's a willing buyer, willing seller market.
Yeah.
Let everyone go there and willingly buy. Don't constrain anybody to sell. Just say, I will buy, you will sell. Though I have a right, you have a right to first refusal. But you buy at a price, because the government must make revenues. Yeah. You remember the revenue shortfall the government makes, there's very few sources of accretion of our reserves. The biggest accretion reserve, source of accretion we have is crude sales. For every crude you don't sell, you don't get FX. You understand?
Yeah.
Your reserves are impaired.
Right.
Now, you also borrowed so much money on forward sales agreement on crude, impairing your capacity to meet.
Yeah.
Now, you compel IOCs and others to say, okay, give Dangote first refusal. It's a nice thing to do, and it's good. It should be encouraged.
Right.
But he's going to buy them for them in dollars.
Yes.
Because they will say all our cost factors are in dollars, and we have an alternative market.
Yeah.
These people probably finance exploration. Because when you want to do exploration financing, you look for the market to finance exploration marketing. If I want to go to, if I get a mining lease now, I'm not going to find money to finance it from me. I'll find a buyer, a retailer, the big boys to say, okay, I have a lease, but I'll pledge this products output from you to you.
Yeah.
So it's you now, like all the Glencore, Trafigura and Co, who will help me sell it and will give me money to do my thing, which probably the deals these guys have done. Right. So I feel that let the market flow. Now, at 9:53, we will grumble. We will be in pain.
Right.
We will not die. There will be no political burden. There will be no need for meetings. There will be no need for blackmail on both sides. There will be no need for you.
I'm talking.
It's just it's not
I'm talking about blackmail. Maybe not close to it anyway. There is the inside track that part of the problem with the Naira for crude deal is because Dangote is not meeting up its obligation to provide the quantity of refined fuel.
Well, I mean, there's suggestions like that. There are rumors like that. But there are also rumors that NNPC is not meeting the obligation as well. What I find out is...
Give him enough crude.
So both of them can't properly account for crude or properly account for products.
Yeah.
That's the problem we have. Somebody claims, you are giving me 48 million barrels, and for this I expect X amount of products. Somebody says, I give you X amount of products, I give you this amount of crude. Somebody says, you delay my payment. Somebody says your invoicing process is not clear. Somebody says the way you're invoicing doesn't show transparency. Somebody says, you're doing properly. It's a lot of continuous controversy, which is needless.
Yeah. So you think the better way is to just forget this Naira?
Let it go. Let everybody go. Let it go. When you're looking at...
it's not enforced now anyway.
I mean, people are saying...
And that's why the prices have gone up.
They will go up, and they'll come down. If Trump gets his way, and what he's doing internationally, and there's more production of crude, and globally, and the price of the barrel falls down, we'll benefit. If the Naira rises up and stabilizes, the landing cost, whether importation or production cost, will come lower.
Yeah.
Those are more inherent factors that benefit all of us.
But if the price of crude comes down globally, it's going to affect our budget too.
No, it will not. The budget is not really that impaired, because I think again, I have to be very careful what I say. Those people that do the budget are comedians. I call that, every time I look at the budget and the put price estimate, I'm like, what a farce. When you're doing your estimated price of crude, shouldn't you do your historic past analysis?
Your what?
Your historic past analysis. So you did. So every time you see the budget, it's been a comedy for the past 14 years. It's a joke. I don't think anybody takes it serious. So, and again, I don't think the problem is more of the ministry, but with our legislators. So the government submits, we can do X million in our budget.
Right.
Want somebody that doesn't know the figures and numbers, just decides on his own to add X money to it and says, oh no, your estimates are wrong. You can do more. Then they add figures. Then you look at Nigerian production potential. We've done in the last 4 years, averagely 1.3, 1.4, 1.5. Suddenly, somebody says in his budget is doing 2 million barrels. You ask him, what has changed? Has there been more oil rigs in the country? Has there been more fines? Has there been more exploration? Are they giving waivers? Are they giving all these benefits? What's going to bring those more things? This has been happening every year. Then from beginning, the budget is going to fail because it will never is going to happen. Then when they look at their benchmark, benchmark, you think, what did you guys use? There's a figure in the law.
Right.
RAMFAC has a figure that allows you to set the benchmark of crude based on certain numbers. They don't follow it. It's arbitrary. So that budget process up to now is one of the biggest problems Nigeria faces. And I don't know who will have the courage in our leaders to. Nobody has courage.
Interesting. So as a last word, so we are telling Nigeria to brace up. The price of petroleum is going to go up. Is that
or go down?
But it has gone up now.
Well, it's gone up now because it's. I mean,
why do you think it will come down?
Well, because again, it goes up and down. There was a time.
Without the naira for crude, it can still come down.
It didn't impact it. Landing costs of petrol for January and February was 812, 813. Dangote was selling 830, 840. It was not impacted by naira for crude. It was impacted with the competitive market. One of the reasons why I'm an advocate of continued importation, despite the advocacy around it, is saying, look, we get a better deal when there's competition.
Right.
If somebody knows that my landing costs, if somebody knows I can bring petrol in at 900 naira now, why would I sell it for 1,000?
Right.
But if there's only one source of supply, then we have a problem. So because landing costs were always good ways of indicating what should be the product.
Yeah.
And what they do in other countries in the world, they do what they call modulation. They don't allow, in the last 2 months, if you're a marketer or a retailer, you would have lost a whole lot of money because prices were changing every day. So you bought stock. Yes, Dangote was generous to give them 60 million naira back to save for the losses you've incurred.
Right.
But that's not the way market functions effectively. In other parts, South Africa and Argentina and other places, they set price for a month. They said the range of prices of petroleum products is between X and X for that month. So when you get your products in, dispense within that month or face a potential adjustment of price next month. So it doesn't put you in a position. If you're financing it and you're a bank financing an LPO as well, you also know what it should be. And if you're in Nigeria and you're planning for your diesel and other things, you have a range.
So that's a price control mechanism.
Well, it's a modulation. We call it modulation.
Yeah.
So it's a way of ensuring that you protect consumers, you protect suppliers, you protect the market from variations that could lead people out of business.
Okay. All right. It's very interesting and always good to have your analysis, Mr. Demola Adigun. Thank you so much for your contributions and thank you for your insight.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you for coming to Inside Sources.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Inside Sources, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Inside Sources. Today, we want to have a quick conversation on the question of the obligation of followers or followership in our country. This past week, General Ishola William, the retired pro-democracy Army General, who has featured on this program a number of times and who is well known, came together to organize with Empowered Newswire the first of its kind international conference on followership in Africa. At that conference, which held last week, there were several speakers from across the world, including from Africa. We have two of the speakers at that conference who are with me. Today we have Senator Babafemi Ojodu, a journalist, politician, and a senator. Senator Ojodu, you are welcome to Inside Sources.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to.
All right, thank you. Thank you, sir. Also, another speaker who is joining us for this conversation, who was also a speaker at this first of its kind conference on followership, is Dr. Tom Udo from the School of Biblical Studies in Jos. Dr. Udo, you're welcome to Inside Sources.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you. All right, let's start with the senator. So I listened to your presentation at the conference, and yes, among some of the things that you said, you did say that the followership also have an obligation. You spoke of a followership that has a blind loyalty and the fact that until the followers in Nigeria get their acts right, we may be going around in circles. I wanted you to also explain, in this very short summary, what you meant for our audience.
Okay, thank you very much, Laulu. What I try to indicate or give expression to at that conference is that followership is not being taken, the issue of followership has not been taken seriously by academics and intellectuals all over the world. I said I've been everywhere. I've looked at university curriculum. I've looked at the curriculum or the program of institutions across the world. I've never seen where, followership is studied. But wherever you go, people pay attention to leadership. And there can be no leadership without followership. There is a leader because there are followers. So, and followership is very important. It is followers, it is the mass of people that go out on election day to elect leaders. It is followers that elected leaders, even in association, in communities, in towns, and, in cities, and everywhere. Mayors are elected by followers. So why are we not paying attention to these followers? If a follower is not, responsible, if followers are not carrying out their own obligation, if followers are just after what they want, if they're after, what is immediate, then we are not going to have, a responsive leadership. So it's very important that we begin to focus attention on followership. It must have responsive leadership.
Okay, so you gave some examples, of some of your own experience while you were a senator and also where you were a presidential advisor, and
right.
you came to the conclusion that that followers have to also not demonstrate blind loyalty.
Yes. What I've seen in recent time in Nigeria is that, most followers are just after what they can get. You are inviting a meeting to discuss matters that affect their life. They are asking you to bring money before they can attend the meeting. They get to the meeting, you entertain them, you give gifts, and when they are leaving again, you give them transport money. You have to deal with every matters that affects their health, their education, their housing, and everything. So often they push leaders to go and steal, to go and take what does not belong to them, so that they can provide for their needs. One cannot actually see this as their fault entirely, because we leaders also are not providing for them. And so they are looking for, shortcuts here and there to take care of their needs. The day the followers themselves decide to choose the right leadership, that is the day their problems will begin to be solved. When you are a follower and on election day, you want to be paid to vote, you do not care whether the person you are voting for is a thief, is a Yahoo person, or is a murderer, or is a ritual killer. You just want that immediate money. As they say in my state, the Boko Sebe, that is, vote and then cook a pot of soup. That is, when you use a pot of soup, to survive for 4 years of the terms of an administration. So followers have to think about that. They have to think properly. They have to think imaginatively. As I said earlier on, it is a wish, on the part of us who are leaders. We leaders also need to behave responsibly by planning for followers. Let us begin to look at their needs and provide for those needs at the macro level. There is no way senators, House of Reps members, governors can meet the need of individual members of their constituency by giving them dole-outs. Rather, we should plan and reason out creative ways, that can solve their problems of housing, provide, social housing, provide free education, provide accessible health, provide water, and provide transportation system that they can afford. If you do this, then you are creating responsible followership among them. When they see this example, then next time they will know that there is a better way of doing things than the way they are done now. So followership is very important. We have to put our searchlight on followership, and by putting our searchlight on them, we will be creating a responsive and a responsible leadership. A leadership that will think about the needs of the people, that will think about the aspirations, that will provide for them. And until we have that, we can never have a properly run environment. We don't need a leadership that it's always about giving out rice, giving out semovita from time to time. How long will that go for? Awolowo never gave anybody dole out when he was premier of the Western region. He never gave anybody bowls of rice. What he did was to sit down with his comrades and plan. Look, how many citizens do we have who will be going to school next year? How much will it cost us to give them free education? How many hospitals do we have in each of the communities? How do we plan for our farmers? Give them optimum community where everything that they are going to require to live a good life on the farm, we keep them on that farm. And he provided for all of this. Till today, that man is still celebrated. The ones who came after him, who goes home on weekends, buy beer for followers, give them cups of rice and noodles and macaroni. They are no longer remembered. Nobody thinks about them. The moment that rice finishes, they are looking for another one. If you don't provide it, that is the end of it.
One last question before I let you go, and then I go to Dr. Tom Udoh.
Okay.
Yes. So how do we organize the followers to come out of what seems to be a bind? Because, even based on what you have said, it seems that the followers are in a bind. It also seems that something has happened to our moral values that has reduced our people and has created the opportunity for politicians to weaponize poverty. So Senator, how do we organize? Who takes charge of organizing the followers to understand?
Well, the problem is the civil society is comatose. And we do not also have political parties again in Nigeria. When in the past we talk about Action Group or NCNC, you are talking of an organization that has proper footing in the society, that are well managed, that well structured, organizations with ideology, with ideas and goals. But that is no longer there now. Tell me, of all the political parties in Nigeria, which one is organized? Which one is well governed? No, there is none. If you look at the churches, they are preaching prosperity. They are not even preaching the Christ-like way of life anymore. It's about what can people get? How can people be richer? That pervades this problem pervades the entire society. So we need to, we need to look at this again, re-examine ourselves. If you go to the traditional institutions, look at those who have been made chiefs. They must be rich. They must have money. How they make that money it does not matter to those who are making them chiefs. Just bring the money. Become a chief. It doesn't matter if you are a murderer, if you are, if you are a ritualist or whatever it is. So it's a problem that cuts across every strata of society. The wife is angry with the husband that is not bringing in money. The husband is pushing the wife out to go and prostitute to bring in money to the house. They are pushing daughters to go and do all kinds of things. There is leadership and followership at the level of the family, at the level of the society, at the level of the state, at the level of the country. So it's in all of these, levels of leadership that we have to examine this issue of followership and then begin to see how do we do things in a manner that we ensure responsibility, on the part of the follower, on the part of the leader. If a dad is irresponsible, it's most likely that the children will be responsible. If the children also have taken responsibility from the father, then they will continue to be so unless there is an adjustment, unless something gives. But as it is now, there is even no agency. There's no human agency, no human whatever organization in Nigeria as of today that is trying to mold followership in a manner that will make it responsible, that will make leaders to be, to perform whatever duties they are supposed to do. So nobody is calling them to leadership to question. Just get what you want to get from the leader and run. Look for another one tomorrow. And if I decided today, people come to you to ask for money. Tomorrow when you are not there, they move on to the next person. and then begin to ask for money and ask for whatever it is. So that is the way we are structured now, and it's never going to help our society grow and develop.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Senator Jodu, for your contributions. I'm sure that the conversation continues on how we are going to have to get ourselves out of that situation.
Thank you.
I think that it must start from the communities. Hopefully we will be able to get an headway. Thank you for coming to Inside Sources.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right. So I now go to Dr. Tom Udo. Dr. Udo, you presented a paper on followership in the religious body, specifically the church. So I wanted to ask you, as you also give us just a summary of your view, but I also wanted to, ask you so that you can put it together, that what ought to be the role of the religious leadership in trying to galvanize the followers to their obligation towards the progress of society.
I think we are really influenced in a way by the culture we live. And the Bible is clear that a leader is supposed to be straightforward. But what we're having, just like the senator mentioned, we're having a kind of religious leaders now that are a little bit more, I would call them economic or social leaders, not really religious leaders, because their major intention aim is no longer to establish morality and lead people to heaven, but many of our leaders are more concerned with what they can get. Well, if we're looking at what our leaders are supposed to do to make sure, as religious leaders in this case, we need to go back to the Bible and see how Jesus, who was a leader, talked about leadership. He says a leader must be the one whom the followers will look up to. A leader is not a person who is more concerned just about the ethnic interest, but a religious leader must be one who is interested in getting all the people to make sure that they are living right and they are actually on the path of righteousness. Our leaders must go back to follow the kind of leadership Jesus established. Our religious leaders I'm talking about here, because Jesus was is a leader that is interested in the welfare of everybody. He wasn't interested in only he was not concerned about just the interest of a selected few or the ethnic group. He came for all. So if we are actually following Jesus, kind of pattern of leadership, who says that a leader must be a servant, then we would not be having leaders who amass wealth for themselves and then rather create poverty among the church. But then you see leaders who are so rich, even more than a local government. But then you have the church languishing in object poverty, and yet they're still more extracting more money from these poor people.
Mm. All right. So final question is, religion in our country is one of the tension lines, unfortunately. And I think you also alluded to it in your presentation at the followership conference, this past week, and also in what you've said. So how do we ensure that the people who are the followers in Nigeria are not persistently divided against their own common interest using religion? How do we ensure that religion is not used to put the people down, while you have a few and some political leaders who use that against the people for their own personal aggrandizement? Dr. Tom Udo, please.
over the years, we have continued to see that many of our leaders, when they want to get into power, they now go to either the church or the mosque to canvass for support. And soon after they are appointed or elected, they disappear. I think the followers need to realize that these leaders are not having our interests. Sometimes when they want to get their ways, they would now divide the supporters and get their ways. But then the supporters or the followers need to come to, it's time that we need to come to realize that our common interest is not protected. And therefore, the followers have the responsibility of rising up and saying no longer selfish leaders using religion to divide, using ethnic cleavages to divide. And over the years, we have lost so much. And therefore, time has come that we must put aside sentiment and demand leaders who have national interests at heart, not just people who will come to religious bodies because they are looking for support. And after that, they are gone. We must be able to ask their leaders to give account of their leadership or what they have been entrusted into their hands before now we can support them.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Tom Udoh, for your contributions, and thank you for coming to Inside Sources.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right. And there you have it, another edition of Inside Sources. Like we always say, Nigeria will prevail. It means Nigeria will win because we will not relent. Thank you for watching. My name is Laulu Akonde. I'll see you by the grace of God next time.